So players getting ready to go right now, looking at their opening hands, and we will go right down to them.
Alrighty, so it looks like James led on a Shipwreck Marsh, our blacked out shadowed version with the red-white landed the same for Nick. I'm sorry, I can't remember some of those lands. Followed by a Cave of Koilos, leaving 2 mana untapped there. No 2-drop. Interesting.
Nice beta planes there from Nick.
Oh yeah, for sure. And no 2-drops for either player here. Follow with another Cave of Koilos for James. See if he pulls a trigger or anything. No, just passes the turn back.
I think that card, by the way, is a Sundown Pass for
Sundown Pass.
Nick.
Okay. All right. And checking to see if that Pilgrim resolves. It does not. Followed by a Battlefield Forge. The Pilgrim would search up a plains. Looks like, yeah, the Make Disappears are here. But, oh, looks like James missed his 4th land drop.
I think that card is called Ambitious Farmhand for what it's worth.
I need to pull the Ambitious, yes, Ambitious Farm there because it's on the deck list. That's perfect. Ambitious Farmhand again for Nick. We'll see if this one resolves. I did notice a Make Disappear in James's hand. It does not resolve.
That's 2 Make Disappears from James right off the bat. Both of them taking Ambitious Farmhand to try and be stopped.
All right, then we see a nice Beta Mountain for Nick. James is going to be taking a pain here to cast Urza, Lord Protector. We got a reader here. So I believe he makes Artifact and Instants and Sorceries cost 1 less. And then you can pay, I believe it's 7 mana if you have the Might and the Meek Stone and that to transform into the Urza Planeswalker.
Yeah, so that is accurate. It's instant sorceries, artifact costs 1 less, 7, and then if you own both, you meld.
Yep. Awesome. All right, another Sundown Pass for Nick here. Has hit his land drops despite having those farmhands made disappear.
What's interesting, though, is that the person that hasn't been hitting their land drops despite that is James.
Yes. Now, Nick does have 2 mana here available to play around another Make Disappear. Obviously tapped out, but this Wedding Announcement is going to resolve and make a 1/1 end of turn.
Wedding Announcement being one of the better cards in the set, that along with Laydown Hands really opened up white decks that maybe weren't Esper into the format. Going into the format, people were expecting Wedding Announcement to be one of, if not the actual best cards, and Nick's deck gets to take advantage of both Fable, the Mirror Breaker, and Wedding Announcement.
Definitely. Urza Lord Protector sends in here for 2. Nick will take that damage. No blocks with the human. See if James has found his 4th land. Little conversation. Oh, I think it looks like the cards off the top of James' deck slid off.
Oh, yeah, that is awkward.
So just making sure that's all squared away before we continue. And looks like James has not hit his 4th land, unfortunately. Nick taking a draw here. And just checking the planes count here. Only see 1 planes in play so far for Nick. Right, because he does have that lay down arms in hand. But here comes a Reckoner Bankbuster. This card is very powerful. We see it all the time in just all over Standard because it's pretty easy to cast.
Yeah, Reckoner Bankbuster is really good in the Grixis mirror and these mid-range mirrors that Standard is often full of, and people are definitely taking advantage of it in this Standard format a lot. People were worried when it first came out that it was going to be really good, but then it didn't see a ton of play, and now it is all over Standard.
Oh yeah, 100%. So, end of Nick's turn. Looks like Announcement made another token. James does not find his 4th land. End of James's turn, Nick will activate that Reckoner Bankbuster and draw a card from one of those counters.
Yeah, Nick is really far ahead here.
Yep.
It would be pretty difficult for Nick to lose this game from this point. Soon he's going to have a bunch of 2/2s. Bankbuster is going to be able to be crewed by things and just block anything that is played and draw cards simultaneously on defense. And then eventually, because of the fact that all of Nick's creatures can be so big, Nick will be able to turn the corner really quickly. Here we actually see, though...
I think it's Sarah Avenger, or Evangel. It lets you cast spells with CMC...
I think it's Sarah Paragon for what it's worth.
Paragon, yes. She lets you cast, I think it's creatures, enchantments, artifacts from your graveyard with CMC 3 or less.
Or play lands from your graveyard.
Or play lands from your graveyard.
Yeah,
and then if it
I
leaves...
believe it's any permanent.
Okay. Oh, permanent's mana value 3 or less. Okay. Okay. So it looks like those 3 creatures crewed up the Bankbuster to get him for 4. I like this attack here from Nick, right? Because it lets him get another 2/2, right? I don't think he's pretty flush on cards, right? So it grows his battlefield and lets actually be able to get into an attack through that 2/4.
Yeah, I like the attack quite a bit. I think that the 1/1s turning into 2/2s is important because it allows you to overwhelm this life total and this resource that's missing in the form of mana from James.
Yeah, James just sending it back here, just struggling, missing land drops.
Yeah, James is about to enter discard mode, if I'm not mistaken, which is really not where you want to be in a matchup where your opponent has, 30 power and more, it looks like.
It definitely feels like 30 power. Okay, we see 2 mana, 3 mana here. Oh, and the Wandering Emperor. Okay. Let's see where this looks like it'll put a counter on the farm hand.
Actually is almost 20. It is actually almost 20 power for what it's worth.
Oh, I kind of like this here. So I think Nick is going for maybe the transform with Coven, changing up the different so that he has 3 different, power types in play here. And then just send in the clowns.
So this card actually has first strike with the token.
Yep, and then we see the activates there. Transform, keeps the counter.
First strike and lifelink.
He's a big boy. Yeah, 2, 4, 6, 9, 10 damage. Yep. And then that will just eat up the Urza.
Nick also should be gaining some life here. It does look like that was missed. But it won't matter because it's getting scooped up anyway.
Yes, we have entered Scoop City. So let's go back to the sideboards here and take a look and see what these players bring to the table. So for James, we see a couple Sanctity, some extra Bank Busters, some Depopulates, Soul Partition, Negate, Junji, Duress, another Farewell. I think with all the seeing against red white, think that Farewell's coming in.
I think it kind of depends. I would expect it does. I think that you expect a lot of enchantments out of Nick here. I think that Nick on the other hand, he can also go pretty either. You got Elspeth, Sanctuary Warden, Farewell, Depopulate, and Sarah Paragon as options. And Urza's Skylex, or Silex, as well, if he even wanted to go that route. Nick's got a ton of things that he could bring in, but I don't know that he really needs to. Some of the things to think about are just kind of, you don't want to over sideboard for a given matchup, and I think Nick's deck is made to prey on the other mid-range deck, so whether it be this Esper deck or whether it be something like Grixis, he's really trying to put his deck in a position where he's able to go either up or down depending on where they're at. So with that being said, I think that we're going to see kind of Nick pulling cards out right now. It looks like just kind of watching him a little bit. I'm curious what he reaches for here because it does look like he's only bringing in about 5 cards.
Okay. Yeah, maybe just some more threats like the Elspeths.
Yep.
Just go since it's kind of hard to tell, right? Like with James kind of missing those land drops, right? To see what flavor of Esper he is.
I do believe that what ended up happening is that we had 2 Elspeths come in, 1 Sanctuary Warden, and then the Urza Silex come in.
Ooh, okay. It's kind of another... Because that I think it exiles everything, right, for the Silex? I'm trying to remember. Or is that That's Karn Silex. You got a couple Silex in standard.
Yeah, so Urza Silex, each player chooses 6. I'll just read it for the viewers here. It is each player chooses 6 lands they control, destroy all other permanents, activate only as a sorcery. When Urza Silex is put into the exile from the battlefield, you may be 2. If you do, search your library for a Planeswalker card, reveal that, and put it into your hand.
Oh, okay.
So for 6 mana, he can go get an Elspeth and clear everything.
Go get an Elspeth.
Or a Wandering Emperor.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's some good value.
Yeah.
Especially if his Planeswalker removals may be lighter. Right, because it says all other permanents. It's a way to clear off some walkers.
Yeah, I think that, Nick's deck is really good at things like, Lay Down Arms is going to take care of small-sized creatures. The spending on if he keeps it in Destroy Evil is going to, get rid of the big stuff. And then it's kind of about, okay, well, what do we do after that? And one of the ways to get rid of a lot of things at once, or like, a flyer that's hard to deal with or something might be that, as well as one of the cool things to think about when you're playing mid-range mirror is when you have the sweeper and when you don't. And so playing your board accordingly can really help dictate how things turn out that way. If that sweeper becomes better or worse, can be very dependent on your draw and how you play the game. So, looks like players are shuffling up. We'll go back down there. Anything on James's that you want to mention really quick?
Yeah, that's why I was looking up here. Sanctity, I don't know. I wasn't too familiar with that card. I think I'm really finding with
when I search the card is Sanctify.
Oh, Sanctify. That's right.
Patty B, you have to play more standard than me. How is this happening?
No, right? Okay. All right. So it's a disenchant at sorcery speed that gains 3 life. Okay. I haven't seen it very often. Most people just play like a regular disenchant for the instant speed.
That's fair.
So yeah, I think some more sweepers come in, right? With maybe the Farewell to Depopulate, maybe the Junji, right? To get some value when it dies. Just maybe some more threats to impact the board.
All right, players are shuffling up, giving each other a nice cut there. Who do you think was winning the playmat game here?
I mean, I really love Surfing Pikachu. Sometimes it can be tacky when there are sections for your things, but I like it.
That's Pokemon. There actually are section things for your things in Pokemon.
Yes. It is a Pokemon mat. So yeah, all the Surfing Pikachu, Lugia is great. Nick's the owner of a store that does a lot of Pokemon stuff as well. So
it does look like James is taking a mulligan, going down to 6 here, and it looks like Nick has kept his hand, or 7. Sorry.
But I also am a huge fan of Kaito.
Sure.
Right. I don't know about pins on the playmat. I know that I've got my top 8 pin on my backpack,
nice.
For tournaments and stuff.
I've literally no idea where my top 8 pins are.
Oh, okay.
I have a question. How do you feel about no Kaito in the 75 for James?
Kaito is a good card if you are
No. I was saying don't bang on the table.
Oh,
I was trying to mime don't bang on the table.
Yes. Kaito's a good card if you're attacking a lot with a bunch of the small creatures. We don't see as much of that in this deck, right? It's a little bit bigger, more controlling. So, while it's good in those kind of mid-range matchup where you already have creatures attacking, I could see it not included here.
Cool. All right. Back to James. See if James can get a good one.
All right.
James actually went all the way down to 5 during our conversation there.
Oof. It's always hard in these mid-range matchups where it's a lot of it is about card advantage, right? Okay, so it's a couple Tri-lands to start off here for our players. Rafine's Tower and a Jetmir's Cavern there. Ooh, that is a Underground River. Painland. Painland for Nick as well. Battlefield Forge. Followed by a Bankbuster, but no Make Disappear this time. Okay, we see the Shipwreck March, and this is I'm trying to think of the the Flex Scourger. He does have 4 of those in his main deck. I've been pretty happy with the Flesh Scourgers as something that doesn't go for the throated with all the Grixis floating around.
I'm not sure where the Flesh Scourger is coming to the sleeve, but I do believe
I think it's to show it's a prototype and not the the big one. Just as a way to kind of notate that. Nick, though, follows up with Fable the Mirror Breaker, one of the best cards in the standard.
Definitely one of the cards that I think the community at large missed the most, and really seeing that go all the way, really going to be able to put Nick into his position to craft his hand, as well as make sure that the pressure that's being put on by the 3/3 it's not as impactful as long as stuff doesn't come up to follow. Because if you're attacking with the Goblin token, then that pressure matters a lot less.
All right, so the Flesh Scourger is going to send in here. No blocks, so it does have Menace. Also, I don't really want to throw the 2/2 in front of the 3/3. A 6-point life swing here for James. Let's see if he has any follow-up here. Does not play another 4th land.
Yeah, once again, I was kind of mentioning this during the I think Nick is meant to put a 2 on it. There we go.
Yeah.
I was kind of mentioning this during the last turn, but if there's no follow-up play, it means that Nick is able to more likely attack with the Goblin, putting him ahead on even more ahead on mana, which could really spell trouble for James.
Definitely. We see Sanctuary Warden and the Urza Silex discarded. 2 Fable the Mirror Breaker's trigger. Roadside.
I'm going to attempt to go for the throw here.
Okay, before attackers. All right, Nick tried to attack. James was like, no, wait. So the Roadside Reliquary, that's a pretty powerful draw spell when you have artifacts and enchantments. To pay 2 mana to sacrifice the land and draw 2 cards.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that's nice about Nick's deck is that it often will have both. That's one of the things that was nice about Mono Black before the enchantment got banned. Oh, another one.
Meathook.
Yeah, before Meathook was banned, Soul Transfer was actually really powerful just due to its ability to get both abilities on the stack.
For sure. All right, and so Fable number 2 comes down here. We'll see. Okay, James does find land number 4.
He really needed that land.
Yeah.
It looks like Depopulate is the thing that James is looking at.
Yeah, it's something to consider here. I don't know. You almost want to keep your pressure on board, right, with the Flesh Scourger if you're going down that path.
Depopulate actually wouldn't stop the Flesh Scourger, because they have to each pick a creature.
No, Depopulate destroys all creatures, and then each person player that controlled a multicolored creature draws a card.
Oh, is that what? How
yeah,
it works?
it's just a 4-mana Wrath.
Okay.
So we do see another Flesh Scourger here.
That's an interesting line.
Fable flips over. Yeah, you kind of think if your plan is to cast Depopulate, right? Maybe holding back the second Flesh Scourger, if you are waiting for Fable to flip.
Yeah.
Nick deciding what to do with his discard trigger. Here. Is that another Sarah Paragon that he discarded? No, he's got that up in the grip. The glare on his graveyard, I didn't quite see. What was discarded there?
Nick is actually looking for lands here.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll do it. The farmhand searches up a plains for Nick.
Yeah, I actually think that was important for Nick to recognize that he wants to keep pulling ahead on mana while he can.
Mm-hmm. So planes for the turn here. What are we doing with 3 mana? Is this an announcement? Oh. Yes. Okay, so that one is Lauren, I think? Yeah, Lauren of the Third Path. So what it does is when it enters the battlefield, it's a 2/1 vigilance that destroys an artifact or enchantment. Looks like Nick's going to be paying the ward here of life equal to the power of the Flesh Gorger. And then you can tap it, and you and your opponent each draw a card.
Yep. Nick has plenty to go ahead and actually crew here if he wants to. We'll see if he decides to, which he does not. So
and no attacks either. Can he attack with the goblin token? Or is he planning on trying to block this Flesh Gorger, maybe?
It could be that he wants to block the Flesh Gorger. Yep. Double blocks. This is a really heads-up play from James here, because if that depopulate is now actually going to be able to take out the Reckoner Bankbuster.
Yeah, just clear his board. And it looks like James did hit his 5th land. I gotta make sure that Bankbuster also, clears. And just left with the... Now, granted, that's a thing to be left over, is a transformed Fable of the Mirror Breaker. But with that Sarah Paragon in hand, I think Nick's kind of fine with the...
Yeah, Nick's going to be able to pull pretty far ahead here. He's going to be able to play both the Paragon and the Farmhand again.
Oh, yes. Awesome.
Really pulling ahead on cards. We have to remember that not only is one of the resources that James down on the cards that he technically got back there with the depopulate, but
the
mulligan, the mana. Yeah, there's a lot that you're behind on, and Nick is getting it all back from all axes.
Definitely, that's a nifty as well, right? Because Sarah Paragon is not legendary, you can copy it and play 2 things from your graveyard. So this is going to come back around really quick here. Now we do see a Shieldred from James.
Shieldred count on the weekend is 1.
All will be 1. Shieldred count 1. And a pass of the turn. Now looks like, okay, so there's a lay down arms. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 planes from Nick in the form of Jetmir's Garden and the 3 basic planes. So Shieldred will go away. James will gain 3 life.
1 mana for 4 mana. Once again, just pulling so far ahead on resources, used resources available. It's really, it's funny. You look at the life totals, right? You see 32 to 9, and you're like, oh, James is fine. It's like, well, he's going to be dead pretty quick when you just look at like the things that are going to be able to happen here. So, we get the Bankbuster.
Yep. So, okay, it looks like we're going to read this here. And I do like how Nick is sliding out to show that when it dies, it'll leaves the battlefield, it exiles, and he gains 3 life as part of the Paragon's clause there. Let's see. He does have some red mana, so he could cast, copy the Paragon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of like just attacking here.
4 Farmhand.
I'm wondering if Nick is okay. I was wondering if he was deciding between activating Farmhand to flip it or not.
Mm-hmm. Right,
but I guess
with that lower life total, but probably not worried.
Yeah, well, one thing that could happen, I guess it doesn't really matter, but he could have potentially flipped it and gained 6. Ooh, pretty big one here. We're gonna use the -5/-5 mode.
That's the Might in the Weak Stone, I think?
That's correct.
Yes. It has its options of draw 2 cards or give a creature -5/-5. So, yep, Paragon biting the dust. Looks like Nick's gonna draw a couple cards with that Roadside Reliquary. And pass it back.
All right, Nick.
I think I drew another laydown arms.
Really far ahead here. 4 drop, 5 mana. Got that Elspeth into play.
Okay, yeah, with the having to use that Might and the Meekstone, yeah, creates an opportunity to open up for Elspeth. Now the +1 with Elspeth, let's looks like he is going to do that. I wonder what choice of looks like we're writing down, because it gives it like a flying counter, a vigilance counter, or a lifelink counter.
Yep.
As well as a +1. So I think they just wrote it down their life pad there. So kind of have to see on that. All right, and Fable's gonna be making a copy of the farmhand, right? Just keep hitting those land drops. And at some point here, that laying down arms would be able to exile a 7-mana Flesh Gorger as well.
Is there actually enough planes? There are enough planes. That actually is possible in Nick's deck.
All right. Looks like the 2 farmhands are coming in here. Plays that planes that he got with the farmhand just to pass the turn. Draw with Bankbuster.
One of the things that people might be wondering is why that Bankbuster has 3 counters on it. It's actually because he drew a card with the copy of the Bankbuster at the end of last turn.
No, he sacrificed the Roadside Reliquary. He didn't activate Bankbuster.
Oh, I'm just wrong then.
Yeah. That's okay. That Might and Meekstone does tap for 2 mana for artifacts. Okay, so we see the Sanctify here. That is going to destroy the Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
It's actually a pretty big deal here for James, and I'm actually impressed that James is still in this game, considering how many resources he's been behind on most, if not this entire game.
Right, it's still an uphill battle, right, with an Elspeth and a Bankbuster in play for Nick, but he's definitely fighting a good fight. So untap here for Nick. Getting everything sorted here. I appreciate the sorting of the planes together. Looks like a cycle and a Jetmir's Garden. So Nick looking for action.
Looks like Nick drew another late on arms.
Mm-hmm.
Continue to put counters on this Elspeth. The Elspeth does pop at 7, which is what Elspeth is at.
I think how many? I know it makes 3/3 angels.
5 3/3s.
5 of those guys. Okay. Okay. Oh, so it looks like the farmhand crewed the Bankbuster, and the Bankbuster got in. See another farmhand. Yeah, that in combination with the late on arms seems like a really reliable way to make sure you have your planes.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to kill really small creatures with farmhand plus laydown. And it's not like it's a big tax on your deck. The card slows down the game, also is able to turn into a larger threat later in the game. Really nice combo to really help white decks out. And even Nick is able to play red-white duels, and that cycle if he gets flooded. There's really good, elegant deck building to these white decks these days.
Definitely. So still on 5 mana for James here. Looks like okay. So playing another Might and the Meekstone.
This one's drawing
draw
2.
Yeah.
I think that is pretty bad for James if he misses another land drop.
Looks like he has found it. Another Raffine's Tower there. I think I saw a Planeswalker floating in his hand.
Oh, another cycle from
Nick. Yeah. So maybe he has a Farewell as his other card.
That would be pretty bad news for Nick here.
Yeah. Looks like he's going with a plus on the Elspeth to put another counter. Looks like maybe on the farmhand that is not brought back by the Paragon. See a crew for Bankbuster here. Attack for 6.
All right. Nick will go ahead and flip, starting to gain that life back now.
Okay. So that's a 3, 3, 4, 4, so 8. 13. 16. Yeah, things look a lot more even now. And another Bank Buster for Nick.
If that card is Farewell, that's kind of rough for Nick.
Yeah.
You know, he made a really conservative line of making sure his Elspeth was going to stay around by giving an additional plus.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, you know, keep playing an additional Bank Buster. Luckily, he'll be able to get the card back from the Bank Buster if it's a Farewell, but...
I saw an Emperor and then maybe a blue card. So maybe that was the white card that I saw.
If it's not a Farewell, Nick is...
Yeah.
I mean, in a second, he's going to need a BD, Populate Farewell, or Bust. Because I do not see Nick plussing that Elspeth again.
Yeah, no. I don't think he... Well, maybe, right? Like, if he feels like he can get the pressure in and kill James without, you know, sacrifice, like, getting the Angels.
Maybe, but the Angels, like, those Angels crew those Bank Busters now.
Oh, they do crew. Yep. That would make it, like, super lethal.
So that would be 4...
4, 8, 12.
Yeah, it's more than lethal. It looks like that is not the play, though.
And he didn't activate Elspeth before. Can't tap that for Emperor. Believe that Power Stone mana has to be used for art. It has that Power Stone clause of artifacts, abilities.
I might be checking that right now. The players might be. Oh, maybe they're not.
Oh, cast non-artifact spells.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, it can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells.
Okay.
So it does.
So we
do need to get that.
Yeah, go ahead and let the players know, and then have the judge issue a warning.
Yep.
All right. So here, Nick's gonna pass back. It looks like they're gonna actually need to stop this play from happening. It looks like the players are fixing that. And we will be back while the judge fixes that. Alright, and it does look like the game state was fixed, so we have a... in play, we have the
Wandering Emperor.
Wandering Emperor.
Yep.
The turn will pass. Or... Yeah, the turn will pass back to James. James will then be able to, if need be, cast the draw spell.
What did James minus on a creature with the Emperor? What? Looks like it's at 1 loyalty, but I don't see. He had both those creatures in play.
Too funny. Look like they're fixing that now. Players are also realizing.
Yes.
Or maybe we're missing something. It is possible that we are missing.
Because Emperor starts with 3 loyalty.
Yeah.
So that with it, the dice being on 1.
I think that the second one of the Bank Busters got exiled because those are they were different arts.
That's a new.
Yep,
okay, right.
Good.
There was different arts.
We figured it out, Patty B. We're fine.
Okay.
I do believe though that means that James should be at 18 life. But the players are also tracking on life pads, so
yeah, unfortunately, yeah, the life pads are what has to be correct.
This is actually a play that I find interesting. If Nick, instead of doing this play.
Uh-huh.
Minus is the Elspeth. Oh, it's the end step.
Oh.
Got it. Okay. This might just be lethal then.
Yeah, just having that extra attacker. And James has that Silver Scrutiny to draw some cards, right? He can pay 5 mana to draw 3. That would give him maybe 3 mana to use. Okay, so +1 counter goes on the Samurai. Should get one of those little pop-out things that has the different ability counters. We see a transform on the other farmhand.
Farmhand is a 6/6 lifelink. I think flying.
I think he's that's a flying creature. From one of the Elspeth counters.
But this does mean that just crewing here.
Counter there.
It's a plus, Nick.
Yeah.
So this is 14 of the.
Yeah, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
There we go. Nick fixed it. It should be at 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Brock is hanging around just to make sure that the game state is maintained.
Okay, so we're actually killing the Emperor and dealing some amount to, and then dealing 4 too, because the life total was actually 18. That makes sense.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's correct on paper, not on the phone.
4 + 6. So much life total changes.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. All right, so James is going to draw 3 cards end of turn here.
James needs specifically depopulate, and then he needs farewell after that.
Or in either order, right? Both of them.
Oh, I didn't realize. I thought that he was main phasing that. I apologize.
No. Nope. Yeah, that was end of turn.
There's a land. That makes me think he drew the card he needed.
Right. That especially since it's a cycle land, he's not cycling it. To find what we need. That can be done with the Might and the Meek Stone, right? As far as the cycling ability on the land. Something to note there.
We have 5 mana. How much this is?
Yes, 5 mana to Fairy. I don't know if that's gonna cut it here. Fairy's gonna make the creature
2/2 vigilance whenever
you draw a card.
Whenever you draw a card, it gets a +1/+1 counter.
That's really powerful.
And then when it deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card.
Wow. That is a powerful token. But it's probably on blocking duty here.
I think that's what it does. I could be wrong.
I don't know if it draws a card when it deals damage.
I could be wrong on that part. All right. So James is a 4 here.
Lots of attackers.
I assume that we're going to see that killed.
Up to 7.
And James will scoop them up.
Scoop phase. Okay.